Welcome to Path Alchemy, a podcast about relationships, psychology, spirituality, and the hidden patterns that shape our lives. I'm Annie, a psychotherapist, and every week I bring you insights and real stories to help you heal, love, and grow. The podcast is for entertainment, information, and reflection purposes only. It's not a substitute for psychotherapy, medical, or professional advice. Full disclaimers in the blurb below. Hey, it's Annie. So today the episode is on no games, no guesswork, the beauty of directness. This is a Love That Lasts episode. So I want to tell you something straight off the bat. If everyone in relationships practiced healthy directness, we would cut conflict in half. Not in theory, not in some utopian fantasy land where everyone meditates on mountaintops and drinks organic matcha. No, in real life. Right here, right now, in Ireland, or wherever you're listening from. Half the rows would evaporate just like that. Because here's the truth. Directness is not rudeness, it's not aggression, it's not some kind of verbal karate chop. It's clarity, it's kindness, it's intimacy. But try telling that to people who've built their entire communication style around riddles, sighs, and sarcastic digs. And look, I'm Irish. I grew up in a culture where people will literally hint themselves into an early grave. You know what I mean? The sure look culture. Sure, it'd be nice if someone, cough, cough, emptied the dishwasher culture. The sarcastic one-liners that, come out at the dinner table. Everyone laughs at, but later you're in bed replaying it, wondering, wait, was that actually about me? So honestly, I've spent half my life feeling like I needed to enroll in Hogwarts just to survive conversations, because apparently to be in an Irish family or relationship, you need a degree in telepathy, divination, or fortune telling. So in my head, I'm like, hang on a second, let me tune in, locate my crystal ball, and activate the telepathy button within my mind so I can figure out what you're actually saying. Oh, right, yeah, I forgot. I'm not psychic, I'm human. And here's the kicker. When you don't pick up on the hints, when you just exist in your normal human state of being human, not being psychic or omniscient, you're the bad guy. Well, I shouldn't have to tell you. Excuse me, what? You're upset because I didn't crack the code of your tone of voice combined with the peculiar way you've slammed the fridge door and left me really confused. So let's be clear, that's not intimacy, that's hostage negotiation. And the thing is, people do this in love all the time, in relationships, in marriages, in long-term partnerships. One partner thinks they're being subtle, sophisticated even, dropping these little cues of irritation, expecting the other to pick up and construct a whole psychological jigsaw puzzle. And the other partner is standing there like, I don't know what you want from me. Would you like a hug, a cuddle? Do you want a divorce? Do you want me to rearrange the dishwasher because apparently it's a crime to put the cutlery in the wrong side? You see how it goes? Silent resentment, unsaid expectations, blow-ups that happen over the most ridiculous things because nobody ever just said the actual thing. You think you're fighting about something and you're not actually fighting about that at all. You're fighting about the fact that somebody didn't just say, I feel taken for granted, or you haven't shown me affection in days. And I'll tell you this, the number of couples I've sat with in therapy who are actually in love, who are fundamentally compatible, but who are absolutely exhausted because they are drowning, literally drowning in guesswork. It's staggering. And no, they're not incompatible. They're just communicating like cryptographers, code breakers, hinting everything rather than just saying it out straight. So here is what I'm going to tell you in this episode, and by the end of this, you're going to see that directness is not only possible, it's the most loving, most respectful, most healing thing you can bring into your relationship. Trust me, it saves time. And guess what? That's finite. It saves energy. It saves intimacy. Directness says, I value you enough to tell you the truth. I respect you enough not to make you guess. Because let's be real, nobody ever had a great love story that started with, I knew he was the one because he always made me decode his sighs and passive aggression hints to figure out what he meant when he said, I'm grand. So here's the thing that gets mixed up more than anything else in relationships. People hear direct and think aggressive. They hear honest and think harsh. But those are not the same. They're not even cousins. They're not close. They're barely on speaking terms. Directness is saying, I feel hurt when you cancel plans on me last minute. Aggression is, You're selfish, you always let me down, and you don't care about me. See the difference? One's an open door, the other is a grenade. And here's what people don't realize, tone and pacing are everything. You could say the exact same words in two different ways, and one will land like an invitation to connect, while the other will land like a court summons. Think about it. If you come in hot, raised voice, clip voice, rapid fire delivery, your partner's nervous system doesn't hear your words. They hear danger. They don't think, yes, what an excellent point about my habit of leaving socks on the floor. They think, am I under attack? Do I need to defend? Do I need to take cover? Should I fight back, shut down, or run away? That's the biology of it. Aggression activates the amygdala, the fight or flight system. Directness, done with warmth, actually calms the system. It says, you're safe. I'm not here to destroy you. I'm here to be known, and I want to see you. And I just want to express myself, and I want you to express yourself too. But oh God, in Ireland especially, people equate bluntness with rudeness. If you don't smother your point in 3 layers of sarcasm and a sheepish smile, you're accused of being fierce and aggressive. As if being clear is some kind of personality defect. No, being clear is being kind. Being aggressive is a personality defect. And let's be honest, some of you listening have trauma around this. Maybe you grew up in a house where somebody shouted their truth at you. So now, anytime someone raises an issue directly, your whole body braces. That's not directness. That's unresolved aggression masquerading as honesty. The two need to be teased apart. So how do you make sure your directness doesn't get mistaken for attack? Well, you wrap it in tone and care. Lower your voice, don't raise it. Slow your pace, give the other person's nervous system time to absorb your words. Soften your body. Don't deliver your truth with clenched fists and dagger eyes. Because when you're direct with love, the whole nervous system shifts. Your partner can stay open instead of armoring up, and that's when real intimacy happens. Let me give you an example. Aggressive. You never listen to me. You're always scrolling on your phone. What's the point in talking to you? Direct. When you're on your phone while I'm talking, I feel so unseen. I feel like I'm not a priority and I'm really unimportant to you. I want to feel like I matter to you. See? One shuts the heart down, the other opens it. And listen, neither is about being nice or sugarcoating. Directness isn't about wrapping your truth in 10 marshmallows and hoping they'll swallow it. It's about delivering the cleanest version of what's real in a way that can actually be received. Because at the end of the day, aggression is about winning. Directness is about connecting. And in love, winning is a lonely sport. Connection is the only prize worth playing for. So here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. Well, to me anyway. If you've ever wondered why some people simply cannot be direct, it's not because they're bad communicators. It's because their early wiring makes directness feel unsafe. Think of it this way. Directness means saying your truth out loud, but if as a child saying your truth got you punished, shamed or ignored, then your nervous system learned directness equals danger. If you had a parent who exploded at the smallest thing, shouting, slamming doors, you learned that honesty equals chaos. If you had a parent who withdrew or sulked when confronted, the silent treatment, the martyrdom routine, you learned that honesty equals abandonment. If you had a parent who dismissed you with, don't be cheeky, don't talk back, you learned that honesty equals humiliation. So now as an adult, when it comes time to be direct in love, you hesitate, you hedge, you hint, you disguise. Not because you're a coward, but because your whole body remembers what happened last time you were honest. On the flip side, if you grew up in a house where directness was actually aggression, people throwing their opinions literally like weapons, then you conflate clarity with cruelty. You think the only way to speak your mind is to attack. And this is what Freud and Winnicott would call the relational blueprint, the unconscious template that tells us what intimacy feels like. For some of us, intimacy feels like riddles. For others, intimacy feels like war. But neither of these is the real thing. Healthy directness is the middle path. It's Winnicott's good enough parent turned into adult intimacy, safe enough to be clear, gentle enough to be heard. So guess what the real work here is? It isn't just learning to say what you mean, it's about unhooking from those old templates, learning to tell your nervous system, I'm not a child anymore, my partner is not my father, not my mother, I can be direct and stay safe, I can be clear and stay loved, I can ask for what I need. And that's why, to me, this episode matters, because without this, people go for decades deep into long-term relationships, marriages, having the same recycled arguments, all because they're terrified to spit out the thing they really want to say. Now, once you've accepted that directness is love and not war, the next mistake people make is this. When they finally do decide to be direct, they try to say everything at once. This is the burst dam problem. You hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, and then one day something small tips you over the edge and suddenly your partner is getting not just today's grievance, but the last 7 years of every tiny resentment you've ever stored. Scroll back through all the episodes and find the episode on condensation. And God help them, because what started as, I wish you'd called when you were running late, turns into, you never call me, you don't respect me, you don't notice what I do around here, or what I do in the house. And by the way, your mother was right about you. You're a complete ass. That's not your directness. That's a flood. Directness means you pick the one core thing, the heart of the matter, not side doors, not half jokes, not the sarcastic, I'm fine. Just the clean center of what you feel. Indirect, well, I suppose it would be nice if somebody remembered the bin once in a while, but sure luck, what do I know? I'm only living here too. Direct, hey, I really need you to take responsibility for the bins. I've got so much on my plate this week. See the difference? One is a performance, the other is partnership and a clean request. Psychodynamically, here's the kicker. When you overstuff your directness with extras, it's usually because you don't believe your core need is valid. So you pad it out with stories, sarcasm, or 10 supporting exhibits as if you were on trial in a courtroom. But you're not on trial, you're in love. And in love, saying the thing is always more powerful than saying everything. Here's the problem. With most people, when they finally decide to be direct, they don't actually say the thing. They say everything. They build a whole case file, complete with all the exhibits, a cross-examination that would make the Supreme Court blush. But listen, your partner's not the High Court. You don't need to bury them under 47 examples of when they left their socks and underwear on the floor. You don't need to call in your best friend as character witness. You just need to say the one clean central truth. Because when you smother the actual point under 10 side points, 3 sarcastic jokes, and 2 weeks of a backlog of stored resentments, your partner does not hear you. They're drowning in noise, they switch off, they dissociate, they don't know what to respond to. Who would? Even if you think about it and put yourself in the same position, you'd just zone out. And instead of clarity, you've just built chaos. Let me paint the picture. Partner 1. Well, I suppose it'd be nice if someone, cough, cough, remembered to bring the clothes in off the line after it rained all day. Yeah, we won't have any clean laundry this week, but anyway, what harm? I suppose it builds character to just walk around in a filthy house. Yeah, no hoovering done this week. Yeah, it's grand, really. Oh yeah, and I'll just break my neck on all the toys on the stairs. Don't mind me. Yeah, just take me to A&E. What's the actual point here? Nobody knows. Is it about the wet clothes on the line, the neglect, the general despair, the overwhelm? It's a mystery novel. There's so much in it. Okay, scenario 2, the direct way. Okay, if you know it's going to rain today, I really need you to take the laundry off the line. I'm just going to have to rewash it. And when Jimmy, who's only 2, leaves his clothes lying around, especially on the stairs, it's such a hazard. Can you please pick them up for me, please? That's it. That's the point. It's not dressed up as sarcasm. It's not buried under humour. It's not wrapped in 3 layers of martyrdom. It's just the actual thing. And you know what? It actually lands. Now, psychodynamically, let's talk about why people overstuff, overcompensate, and over-explain and over-talk instead of just saying the thing. It's because somewhere deep down, they don't believe the thing is enough. If you grew up in a home where your needs were dismissed, you learned, I need evidence, I need backup, I need to pile up my feelings on top of all of the other feelings. They're all like sandbags to make them matter. If you had to fight for scraps of attention, you learned one clean truth won't be noticed, so I have to shout them all at once. And if you're a gaslit or told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, you learned, okay, my direct feeling state isn't valid on its own. I need 10 supporting stories just to prove that I've the right to express my emotions. I need to explain and argue why I have the right to speak. So what happens? As an adult, when you're finally honest, you come in swinging with a 10-page essay instead of a single sharp sentence. But in love, that backfires because your partner can't metabolize it all. They tune out or get defensive or grab the one throwaway line you tossed in for dramatic flair, or maybe the one that really hits below the belt, and argue with that because they're wounded. While the real need, the heart of it, is completely lost. And that's why I say this. Say the thing, not everything. It's intimate, it's disarming, it's surgical, and honestly, it's kinder because your partner is then not left trying to wade through a swamp of mixed messages. They just get the actual core truth, the jewel in the middle. Think about it. Which lands better? You don't care about me. You never listen. You always ignore me. You're just like your father. And by the way, you chew like a cow. Or when you're sitting at the table and you're just staring at your phone, I feel invisible and I'm feeling like we've lost our connection. I miss you. So one's all over the place, the other's just a laser, and lasers heal faster than throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So here's the truth. If I had a hero for every client who said, I didn't want to bring it up, I don't know how to bring it up, it's just like so much stuff, how do I bring it up? I would be a very wealthy woman. You don't need the full picture. You just need to name one clean, direct line of truth. You don't have to turn it into a 6-part Netflix kind of series on why you're annoyed. So let's practice this. Boil it down. Imagine you're only allowed 10 words. What's the thing? Say that thing. Leave everything else out. Because in love, and I believe in life, less is often more. Directness isn't about volume, it's about clarity, and clarity is the deepest form of kindness you can offer. And here's a golden rule of love. If you want intimacy, you have to own your own shit, full stop. And that means learning to say, I feel instead of you always. It means learning to say, I really need instead of you never. And it means learning to say, I notice instead of what's wrong with you. Because here's the psychodynamic truth. When you point the finger outwards, the other person's nervous system doesn't hear you. They don't think, oh, how insightful, let me reflect. They think, oh my God, they're on the warpath, danger, blame, incoming attack. Their whole body goes into defense mode. But when you own your I and you talk from your person-centeredness, you disarm the bomb. You disarm the grenade. You make it safe for the other person to stay in the room with you. So let's talk about that you always, you never crowd. You know the lines. You always forget the bins. You never care about how I feel. You're just like your mother. First of all, let's clear this up. Nobody in history has ever responded to you always by saying, oh, you're so right, darling. I'll change immediately. No, they argue, they deny, they fire back their own. Well, you never. And suddenly you're in the blame Olympics, hurling javelins at each other across the kitchen. It's not intimacy, it's target practice. So let's look at the I alternative. Let me flip it for you. Instead of, you always forget the bins or you're always looking at your phone, say, I feel so stressed when I have to chase the bins and I'd really appreciate it if we could take turns and share that. When you're staring at your phone, I miss you so much. Can you spend more time with me, please? Instead of, you never care how I feel, say, I feel hurt when I'm not checked in on. I need a little bit of reassurance. And instead of, you're just like your mother. And please, for the love of God, never say that in a fight. Say, I feel really lonely when we argue like this. I feel like there's a massive wall between us and I just want us to sit down, connect, and to do much better. Do you hear the difference? One invites connection, the other lights a match and throws it on the petrol. So psychodynamically, this is fascinating. Owning your I is terrifying for so many people because it requires vulnerability. If I say, you're lazy, I'm safe. I've lobbed the ball into your court. If I say, I feel overwhelmed, I feel like I'm drowning and unsupported, Now I'm exposed. I've put my soft belly on the table, just like Sophie does when she rolls over for her belly rub. So that's why people dodge the eye, because deep down it's easier to criticize than to risk rejection. It's easier to accuse than to admit need. And let me just share something with you. Everybody is needy. Everybody. There's nobody who's not needy. This whole, avoidance of neediness is not healthy. Really and truly, it's an avoidance of vulnerability. But love doesn't grow in accusations, it grows in vulnerability. So if you want a relationship that lasts, you have to train yourself to own your eye, even when it feels raw, especially when it feels raw, because that's when it matters. Here's how it usually goes around here. Sure, don't bother, I'll do it myself. Not like anyone ever notices anyway. Partner B, what's that supposed to mean? Partner A, nothing, forget about it, I'm grand. Translation, I'm seething, but I'll die before I say the actual thing. I'm going to just store up all my resentment and I'll fling it at you in 2 weeks' time. So here's the direct version. Partner A, I really feel taken for granted at the moment when I'm the one who always does the dishes and I don't get any help or acknowledgement. I'd really just like a little bit of help sometimes and a little bit of acknowledgement and validation. Look at that. One sentence, clean, no riddles, no martyrdom, just the I. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, partner B responds with something like, oh my God, I didn't realize that mattered so much. Oh my God, yeah, you've been doing an awful lot. Thank you for doing them. Listen, I'm going to step up. I'll give you a hand. Connection restored. The payoff? Owning your I is scary, but it's also the most powerful intimacy builder there is, because what you're really saying is, I trust you with my truth. I believe you can hold it without destroying me. That's love. That's partnership. And honestly, if more people could manage that, I'd be out of a job and that would make me very happy. So yeah, owning your I is scary, but it's also the most powerful intimacy builder there is, because what you're really saying is, I trust you. I really do. I believe that you can hold me. That is true partnership. So there's a truth people don't want to hear. The clock matters. You can have the best intentions in the world, but if you wait 3 weeks to bring something up, you've already sabotaged yourself, because love has a shelf life, especially when it comes to conflict. Leave it too long, and what started as a small irritation turns into a full-blown psychological Irish stew. By the time you finally get around to it, you're not talking about the dishes or the bins or the mess the kids have left on the floor or the phone scrolling or, whatever tiny thing started it. You're talking about every single story you've made up in your head since. Let's be honest, human beings are not good storytellers when they're wounded. Oh, we don't think, I'm sure my partner has just felt tired and forgot. We think they hate me, they don't care about me anymore, they take me for granted, this is just like mommy, daddy, that ex who destroyed my life, etc. Silence breeds story making in the mind, and story making breeds resentment, and resentment is the acid that eats intimacy from the inside out. And that's why I would say have a look at the material that the Gottmans have out there. Brilliant books to read. 24 hours. Raise it within a day, not in a psycho crazy stopwatch way, but as a principle. Don't let stuff fester. Don't shove it down and let it harden into bitterness. Here's how I observe people tend to do it. Day 1, something happens. You're annoyed, you say nothing. Day 3, you're still annoyed. You've withdrawn. Partner hasn't really noticed yet. You sigh overly dramatically. Day 5, sarcastic remarks are dropped. Asher, what would you know about helping out anyway? Day 10, you're now a walking ball of resentment. It may as well be a neon flashing light above your head. And day 14, you finally explode over something really tiny, like how they buttered the toast that morning and how the coffee was cold when you came down, and now the whole kitchen is a war zone. Get the idea? Sound familiar? So that's what happens when you let timing slide. What could have been a 2-minute conversation has now turned into a 2-week grudge fest with an inevitable blow up at the end. Why do people delay? Well, psychodynamically, the reason they do is fear, Very simple. Terror, fear of being dismissed, fear of being rejected, fear of escalating the fight, fear of vulnerability. So people stall, they shallow it, they go down, stuff it down, they tell themselves it's not worth it or it's too small to mention. But meanwhile, the nervous system is quietly filing it away in the resentment cabinet. And guess what? That cabinet never stays closed. It bursts open, usually at 11 p.m. when you're both exhausted and one of you has just said, I'm fine. So the 24-hour rule is the antidote. Okay, sometimes like this whole thing about never go to sleep on a fight is not practical. Your sleep matters and sometimes there's just no time. So just within 24 hours, it doesn't mean you have to be hypervigilant, throwing mini conflicts at your partner every night like an episode of Love Island. No, it means if something actually bothers you enough to notice, it deserves daylight time. Bring it up cleanly, simply, and without delay. Why? Because within 24 hours, the nervous system still has the capacity to recall the incident without attaching 15 layers of narrative. You can say, I feel really hurt when you don't text back. Instead of 2 weeks later, you never communicate. I just can't rely on you. You are so rude. I don't even know why I bother. One keeps the door open and the other slams it shut. So intimacy is tied to timing. Timing isn't just logistics, it's intimacy. And what you're really saying when you address things quickly is, I care enough about us not to let this rot set in. I want to restore closeness now, not later. So think of the 24-hour rule as love's version of bin day. Take it out regularly before it stinks up the whole house and you've got rats. That's safety. Safety builds trust. Trust builds love. And love honestly cannot survive on a diet of hints, delays, and I'll bring it up at some mythical right moment that never comes. So this is really important. The piece that separates directness from conflict is that you have to show that you're speaking for the relationship, not against it. Most people skip this part. You see, people don't understand, if you attack your partner, you're attacking the relationship and you're also attacking yourself. So most people skip this part. They just blurt out the grievances. And yes, it's honest, but without context, it lands like a stone to the head. And that's why I'm going to say now, signal care, lead with love, even when you're bringing up the uncomfortable stuff. Think about it. Which lands better? You're driving me insane. You never listen. I just can't deal with you anymore. Or I'm saying this because I want us to feel closer. I don't want a lack of intimacy and I don't want little things to get in the way of us. One makes your partner feel like the problem. The other makes your partner feel like the purpose. And people are much more open to hearing hard truths when they know the goal is connection and maintaining intimacy. So what actually works? Saying things along the lines of, well, I'm bringing this up because you really matter to me. And really and truly in your tone, don't just waffle this off. You have to be sincere. And then something along the lines of, I really want us to have less tension, not more. I want connection. I need to say this so we don't drift apart or have unspoken resentments. Or I really value us too much to let this slide. I know it's small, but let's take care of the little things so nothing ever becomes big between us. Notice how all of these little verbal cues, phrases soften the landing. They let your partner's nervous system stay calm enough to actually hear you. Because underneath every conflict is the attachment system. We all want the same thing, to feel safe, loved and connected. But when you launch into criticism without care, your partner really feels unsafe, unloved, and like they're about to be abandoned or attacked. So when you signal care up front, you reassure that attachment system. You're basically saying, we're okay, I still love you. I just need us to tidy up these little snags along the way so that we don't lose intimacy. That reassurance is gold. It keeps arguments from spiraling. It really does. And that's what makes the difference between a fight that tears you apart and a disagreement that brings you closer. So every time you have a rupture and you repair, the relationship is actually going to get stronger. And I suppose I need to say this. If you start with, I value us too much to let this slide in this country, you might get laughed at. But, you know, we're not exactly a nation known for verbal mushiness. But listen, you don't need a string section of violins in the background. You just need something simple and disarming. Even a dry, look, I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't care, is enough. Because what matters isn't poetry, it's intention. And your partner can feel intention more than they hear words. If you master this, if you can deliver hard truths wrapped in care, you actually spend less time in conflict. Why? Because your partner doesn't have to fight you to feel safe first. They can go straight to hearing you and listening. And that means much faster repair, quicker reconnection, less exhaustion, and you get to spend more time loving each other and less time decoding fridge slams, door slams, cupboard slams, and massive sighs. So here's your challenge. Every time you're about to say something hard, frame it with care. Don't just drop the grenade. Put it in a velvet box first. Because intimacy isn't about avoiding hard truths. It's about delivering them in ways that say, I want us to last. And honestly, if couples learned this one trick, half the arguments I see in therapy would vanish. Let me say this as plainly as possible. Hinting is a waste of time. It is not intimacy. It's a bunch of riddles. They're landmines. They're passive-aggressive invitations to a fight that no one wants to RSVP to. And nowhere is this more obvious in this country. Oh, the Irish have practically turned hinting into an Olympic sport. Forget sprinting or rowing. Our real national talent is saying one thing, meaning another, and then acting completely outraged when the poor idiot in front of us didn't magically translate it. The hinting Hall of Fame, like seriously, it's fine. Translation, it's definitely not. And if you don't notice that it's not fine, you're dead to me. Ah, grand. Translation. I'm quietly seething, but too stubborn to say it out loud. Good luck guessing why. Don't worry about it. Translation. Worry about it. Really worry about it. Obsess over it. Lose sleep over it. You're in major trouble. Ah, sure luck. Translation. I'm about to insult you in code, and if you confront me, I'll say you're overly sensitive and way too dramatic. This is what I see. This is what I observe. The Irish seems to weaponize ambiguity. It's crazy. And here's the psychodynamic reason. Hinting corrodes relationships. It forces your partner into a mind-reading role. And when people feel like they have to read minds, they either get it wrong and trigger an explosion, get it right but feel controlled and resentful. Either way, intimacy takes a hit, because real intimacy thrives on clarity, on knowing each other, sharing, not on guessing games. When you hint, you're not actually inviting closeness, you're testing, you're saying, if you really love me, you just know what I'm saying without me saying it. That's not love, that's a trap. The guessing game triggers exhaustion. Think about how exhausting the following would get in a relationship. Partner A sighs heavily, mutters grand, and clatters a few dishes. Partner B now has to pause and think, is this about the bins? Is this about last night? Is this about something I said in 2016? Partner A waits for partner B to guess correctly. Partner B guesses wrong. Now they're fighting about the wrong thing on the wrong day in the wrong tone. Do you see how maddening this might get? And can you see how it could all be avoided if someone just said, I'm annoyed about X? So why do people hint? Well, I'm convinced people hint because it feels safer. They think directness is vulnerable. If they say I'm hurt, you could reject me. You see, if I say I'm annoyed, you could dismiss me. But if I just drop a sarcastic remark and you pick it up, then I feel validated without risking rejection. But here's the catch. Most of the time your partner doesn't pick it up because they're not psychic. They're not tuned into your exact blend of sighs, coughs and coded sarcasm. They're just living their life. So instead of safety, you get distance. Instead of intimacy, you get resentment. So clarity is love. It says, I'm going to let you in on the real story instead of making you guess. So instead of, don't worry, I'll do it myself, say, I feel overwhelmed, I'd like your help. Instead of, it's fine, say, I'm really disappointed, I need to talk to you about it. Instead of, sure, what would you know? Say, I feel dismissed when you cut across me, please listen. This is not fancy, it's not poetic, it's really basic, it's clear, and clarity, as I said before, is kindness. So here's what people get wrong about directness. They think it means pushing. They think it means hammering their point until their partner finally crumbles and says, fine, 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 you win. That's not directness, that's a hostage situation. Directness is saying your truth once clearly and kindly, and then leaving space for the other person to respond. Don't ever push your partner. It's toxic. It's not healthy. You can make requests and invite. People should never feel bullied into doing something. So why do people steamroll? Psychodynamically, when people steamroll or push, it's fascinating. People who do this kind of push their truth. They usually grew up in environments where they were ignored. So now as adults, when they finally speak, they speak really loudly or softly and emphatically, and they keep going and they don't stop. It's not enough to be heard once. They need to say it over and over again like a broken record 5 to 10 times from every angle until they feel safe that the other person got it. The problem is the more you push, the more resentment your partner is going to feel, and the less your partner can absorb, and the more they're going to dissociate, and the more they're going to just completely tune out. It destroys love. They don't feel respected, they don't feel honored, they don't feel invited to respond. They just feel bullied, cornered. And when people feel this way, they're going to completely shut down. They're going to have huge, massive amounts of resentment inside of them. And then they'll lash back at a later time, or they'll just, escape for a while, and you'll have this massive Grand Canyon that builds between two people. Once that happens, good luck trying to fix that. It's really hard. None of this builds intimacy, because what you're really doing is you are eroding, you're taking a Kangol hammer to respect. So think of it like this. A command says, you'll hear me now, you'll agree with me, and you'll change immediately. An invitation says, okay, I'm going to tell you what's true for me. I'd just like you to take a little bit of it in. I'm not going to take long. And now I'm going to sit afterwards and you're going to tell me what you've heard and what you think. Inviting input from the other person is really key. One is force. The other is honor, dignity, and respect. Directness should always feel like an invitation, because sometimes I've had arguments where I'm wrong. And I need to hear that, and I'm open to it. And you invite that back from the other person, and then you're going to pivot. And you might learn something new. So it's really, really key. You have to give space to this. And after you've said your piece, pause, breathe, let it land, and give your partner the dignity of their own response time. Because not everybody processes at the same speed. Some people are quick responders. You need to have patience. You need to maybe give some person might need a minute, somebody else an hour. And actually, I've met people who need 2 days to sift through what they feel before they speak. And you have to honour that. If you're in partnership with somebody, you don't just steamroll over them. You can't push them. If you don't give that space, you're not practicing respect. And you're definitely not practicing directness. You're practicing domination. And domination is not intimacy. So let me give you another example that I'm familiar with in this country. Partner A, I'm grand, I'm fine. I just don't want to talk about it. Partner B, no, tell me now, please, please. I really need to hear what's wrong with you. Please don't walk away. Sit down, tell me. Let's just talk about this. Please don't shut me out. Why don't you say it? That's not intimacy. That's interrogation. Directness would be, okay, I'm upset about what you've said earlier. I'm just going to take a little while to process it. Partner B, okay, what do you think? Can we have a small talk in an hour or maybe 2 when, we've all calmed down? Partner A, yeah, you know what? I think that'd be okay. I think I'll have it processed by then. See? Clear truth, clear boundary, clear space. So why does space heal? The psychodynamic goal of this is giving people space allows your trust in your partner to meet you. You're not clinging, you're not controlling, and you're not demanding. Those things are really suffocating and they, suck all the oxygen out of a relationship. You're stating your truth and then saying, I trust you enough to come towards me when you are ready. That's what secure love looks like. It does not suffocate. It breathes oxygen into a relationship and it's relaxed and calm as a result. So if you think directness means hammering your point until it finally sticks, you've missed it completely. That's not clarity, it's control. True directness says, this is me, here's my truth, I give you the dignity to respond in your own sweet time. That's not weakness, that's confidence. That is radiance, that's boundaries, and that's space. It's self-esteem. It's knowing who you are. You know you're not going to fall apart while you wait. It's patience. And it's exactly what turns conflict into connection. This is the don't start with the nuclear truth section. Show people how to train themselves gently. Okay? So it's so important that I cover this. You need practical strategy. Just begin with small everyday honesty. So here's the mistake people make. They hear me banging on about directness in therapy and they might get all fired up. And then the very first time they try it, they drop the nuclear bomb. They've been quiet for months, swallowing resentment. And then one day they decide, right, Annie said be direct. Time to tell them I haven't been happy in 3 years. I'm considering moving to Spain. And by the way, I hate how you breathe. No, that's not the place to start. So directness is a muscle, and like any muscle, you have to build it up slowly. If you go from 0 to Olympic weightlifting, you're going to collapse. And if you start small, consistently, gently, you'll actually rewire your nervous system to realize, hey, I can say what I need, and the sky is not going to fall down, the world's not going to end. So where do you begin? With tiny, ordinary, no-stakes treats. Actually, I'd really prefer tea to coffee if that's okay. Is it okay if I close the window? I'm feeling cold. Nah, I don't really feel like watching that film tonight, but it's okay if you want to watch it. Can you give me 10 minutes before we talk? I just need to decompress for a second. These are the training wheels of directness. They don't carry the weight of childhood trauma. They don't threaten the relationship. They're just little micro moments of honesty. And every time you do it, you're sending a message to your nervous system. See, I spoke up. I was clear and nothing bad happened. That's how safety is built. People who struggle with directness have an internalized prohibition against speaking their truth. Somewhere deep inside is a voice that says, don't rock the boat, don't make waves, don't be needy. So when you practice this in small doses, you're slowly dismantling that prohibition. You're proving, step by step, that clarity is survivable, that honesty is safe, that love can actually grow when you name what's real. Again, in this country, we're notorious for this because we've been raised on politeness. We sit in someone's freezing cold kitchen with multiple coats on rather than asking them to close a window. Or we'll drink a cup of tea when we really didn't want to. We just didn't want to say no, thank you. And of course, when it comes to relationships, people choke on the bigger truths. They've trained themselves into silence. So when you start small, with the tea, with the window, or with the TV remote, you start untraining that silence. You start remembering what your needs are and understanding that they're not crimes. A lot of times in therapy, I am big on heat, and I love it when people finally say to me, oh my God, I'm too warm. Would you mind turning that off, please? That's simple. I've no problem with that. Of course, I'm going to actually compromise and take other people's, temperature requirements into consideration. And here's the payoff. Once you can say the small things, the bigger truths don't feel so terrifying. By the time you get to, I felt really hurt last night when you were staring at your phone for ages. I felt disconnected and I felt ignored. I need more physical intimacy. You've already built the muscle memory. You know how to breathe, how to stay calm, and how to deliver something, a message, without spiraling into a flood. directness becomes second nature, and second nature is where intimacy lives. So if you're listening to this thinking, I could never say what I really feel, don't panic. Start small, practice daily. Think of it like directness reps at the emotional gym. Because every time you tell the truth, even about tea or tally, you're strengthening your capacity for love. Here's the part that nobody tells you. Even when you're trying to be beautifully direct, it won't come out the way you want it to, and it won't sometimes land the way you meant it to. Sometimes your words will come out sharper than intended. Sometimes your partner will feel tired or stressed and hear it wrong. Sometimes, you will perceive that you're acting like Florence Nightingale, delivering really gentle clarity with velvet words, but to your partner, it's still going to feel like a slap. If you're worried about that, I always say to people, jot down your bullet points and practice that way. It'll come naturally afterwards. That's life, though. That's relationship. That's two humans with two different nervous systems colliding in real time. It just takes practice. And here's a golden rule. If your directness lands too heavy, repair it immediately. So what does that look like? It doesn't mean groveling. It doesn't mean backtracking on your truth. It just means circling back to soften the edges. I know that came out strong. What I really meant was, and correct it. Okay, I wanted to be clear, but I also want you to feel loved. Or I care about us, and if that sounded harsh, it really wasn't my intention. Okay, can we take 3 deep breaths, reset? I'm going to say it all over again, more gently. And this really matters to me because you really matter to me. Notice how all of those keep the truth intact while layering in reassurance. So psychodynamically, repair is what restores the secure base after conflict. Without repair, even small misunderstandings will lodge in the nervous system as micro-abandonments. They build up brick by brick until the house of intimacy feels cold and unsafe inside. But when you repair, you send the opposite message. I can be honest and still stay close. I can be clear and still be loving. You don't lose me when I tell you the truth. And that's how trust grows. Not in the absence of rupture, but in the presence of consistent repair. So in this country, again, repair often takes the form of humour. You storm out, slam a door, and 5 minutes later, someone sticks their head back in and says, tea. That's the national repair ritual. And listen, yeah, I love a cup of Barry's. It has its place. But if you never circle back to the words, if you never actually clarify what was meant, then the underlying issue stays unresolved. The tea is just a plaster on a gaping wound that still needs stitches. So yes, have the tea, but also have the words. A lot of people resist repair because they feel ashamed. They think if I admit I came across wrong, it means that I failed. And they sink into shame. Not true. Repair isn't weakness. Repair is strength. It takes far more maturity to own your impact on somebody than, hiding. And your intention is key. So when you repair, you model for your partner that it's safe to make mistakes too. You create a culture where honesty is allowed to be messy because guess what it is? And because what matters is not perfection. There's no such thing. What matters is connection. So here's the challenge. The next time you try to be direct and it lands heavy, don't retreat into silence. Don't punish yourself or your partner. Repair it saying, okay, 3 deep breaths. Let me try that again, please. Because at the end of the day, intimacy is not about flawless communication. There's no such thing. It's about staying close even when you stumble. Here's where I want to leave you. Directness isn't rude. It isn't aggressive. It isn't unkind. Directness is love. It says, I value you enough not to hide my truth. I respect you enough not to make you guess. And I trust you enough to give you my truth unedited. Because the alternative is games, hints, and sideways digs. The sure I'm fine when you're definitely not fine corrodes intimacy. It forces the person you love most to become a mind reader, a detective, a code breaker. And love is not meant to be lived like that. Love is meant to be lived in daylight. And no one has the time to dissect riddles. So when you're direct, you strip away the fog. You stop asking your partner to walk through a maze blindfolded and you hand them the map instead. That's not harsh, it's healing and it's intimacy. One of my friends, Lorraine, she's South African. She's so wonderful, incredibly funny. And she once said to me, I love how direct you are. I always know where I stand with you. 0 games, no BS. You're as clear as a billboard. And that honestly is the highest compliment I've ever been given. Now, I'm not perfect. And definitely I've had to work on this because love is wanting to live in truth. And the kind of love that I want to teach is about speaking truth. Not one where somebody's left guessing, doubting, or interpreting different nonverbal cues, sighs, and slams, but one where you always know, here's where I stand, here is where you stand. And guess what? We can offer an invitation to meet in the middle because everything is on the table and nothing's off limits. Clarity is love's great gift. It's the refusal to make the people we love work for scraps of certainty. Directness is not the enemy of romance. It's the soil on which romance, physical intimacy, it grows. It's the quiet statement of, I want to be known and I really want to know you too. Tell me everything. Think about it. If there's something infinitely romantic about a partner who looks in your eye and says, I love you, I want you, I need more of your touch, I miss when you're away, as opposed to a partner who sighs and mutters, sure, it'd be nice if someone noticed me for once. Not so sexy. Yeah, love thrives in clarity. Love deepens in truth. And directness heals because when you dare say your truth and your partner stays, when you risk vulnerability and it doesn't blow up in your face, you rewire your old wounds. If you grew up in a home where honesty was punished, every act of directness in your relationship is a little reclamation. If you learned as a child that you had to stay silent to stay safe, every time you tell your partner the truth, you're teaching your body a brand new story. It's safe to be seen, it's safe to be heard, and it's safe to be loved as I am. And that's why I say directness is love. Not because it's easy, but because it repairs the places where love once felt unsafe. So here's my invitation to you. Drop the games, drop the riddles, drop the hints. Stop asking your partner to be psychic and stop making yourself small. Speak your truth, speak the thing, not everything, not forever. Just the thing that's true for you right now. Say it with warmth, say it with kindness, say it with the care that signals, I want us to last. Because you do not need to be perfect. You just need to be clear. You don't need to wrap it in sarcasm. You just need to wrap it in love. And honestly, if enough people practice this, I truly would be out of a job. Decommission me, please. Make me redundant. I'll go open a horse sanctuary or take a pottery or finally write that terrible romance novel I've been dreaming of bashing about on my laptop. I'd be delighted to do that because it would mean that couples were living in honesty instead of hiding, in daylight instead of their shadows. Directness is not the enemy of intimacy. It is its foundation. It is the language of love that lasts. So say it. Say the thing. Say it simply. Say it soon. Say it because the person in front of you matters. Say it because you matter. Say it because you want your love not just to survive, but to grow and evolve and deepen. Directness equals love. Always. I'm Annie. Thanks for listening. Wherever you are, have a wonderful day.